Okay, it's time to continue our Johto journey through the Pokemon Versus set. In the last video, we took a look at Falkner's cards, and today we're going to take a deep dive into what Bugsy has to offer. Just like we did with the last video, we're going to go through some artist credit, as well as the TMs related to Bugsy, as well as all of his Pokemon. Without further ado, let's just get started and figure out what Bugsy brings to the table. First up, of course, we have to talk about the artist. In this case, the artist for this set is Kyoko Umamoto. First started with the Versus cards, actually, and then into Expedition, Skyridge, etc. They've done far less cards total than our last artist had, and is a little bit less popular overall, but still has some real pedigree behind their name. The Aquapolis Espeon here, for example, is an incredible card, is like the Espeon card, and has surged in price over the years, especially as more and more WotC 20 players pick up copies of it, as more collectors pick up copies of it. That card keeps getting more expensive. We have the Expedition Squirtle up there, which is just one of the most beautiful arts Squirtle has ever had. You've got a Fire Red Leaf Green Jigglypuff here with a beautiful sunset. I think this is just an incredibly iconic Jigglypuff, so it was cool to get featured here. And then in Unseen Forces Ampharos, you'll catch a theme here that I really like Ampharos, and this art, again, just like the last one, I think is beautiful. Like I said, this artist has done like a third the cards that our previous artist has done. However, one of the interesting things that Umamoto has done is the Pokelids campaign. They've done like 30 of these. Up here in the right corner you'll see Suicune, and on the left Growlithe and the Bellsprouts there. In Japan, to sort of increase tourism, they had independent freelance artists commissioned to do manhole covers with Pokemon on them, and Umamoto has done a ton of these. These were two of my favorites. I love Suicune, and this Growlithe one is adorable. I just thought that was a really cool thing that not a lot of other artists have done, and so that was just neat to be able to feature here as well. As far as what the Bugsy cards for Versus actually have to offer, first we have to look at Bugsy's Technical Machine 1. Just like we said in the last video, these technical machines do have to be played attached to a Pokemon with Bugsy in the title, give you one special move for one turn, and then they go away. They offer the more interesting, complicated moves, and the stuff that you kind of build the deck around. So up first, we've got Fury Cutter for 2 grass. You flip 4 coins. If you flip 1 head, this does 20 damage plus 10 more damage. If you flip 2 heads, it does 20 plus 20. If you flip 3 heads, it does 20 plus 40. And if you flip 4 heads, it does 20 plus 80. Right off rip, you can kind of see what Bugsy's got going for him. This man is flipping some coins. This is the Gambler's deck, if ever there was one. 2 grass for if you get 0 heads, this sucks. If you get 1 heads, it's 2 grass for 30 damage, which is above curve and is like right on the curve you'd want a cube to have. But you have a chance to do 30 or 40 or 60 or 100 damage with this card, which is just absurd. It is the single highest damage output card in the format. Obviously, it takes a lot of luck to get it to land, but just a fascinatingly big card. Building a deck around this, you just have so much potential for just like an absolutely explosive turn. Obviously, you have potential for that to not happen too, since it's so coin flippy. But I just played a Bugsy deck myself in one of the most recent events, went 3-0 with it, and there were plenty of times where I played this card and flipped for like 80 damage. Or 60, I guess. The 20 plus 40 flip. And that alone one-hit KOs most Pokemon that exist. If you happen to catch a weakness, even the 20 plus 20 is 40, that's 80. That'll take out any Pokemon in the format. Just a fantastic card. If you're not a coin flipper, if you want to stay away from that, Bugsy is probably not for you. But if you're willing to ride the lightning a little bit, this card is awesome. Bugsy's TM2 continues the coin flip shenanigans, but for 2 grass you get Super Drain. Flip a coin. If heads, remove a number of damage counters from this Pokemon equal to the damage done to the defending Pokemon after weakness and resistance. If that Pokemon has fewer damage counters than that, or if this Pokemon has fewer damage, then remove all of them. So it does 30, and on a coin flip on heads, you get to heal 30 from your own Pokemon. So you just get a 60 damage swing between, how far up you went and how far down they went for 2. Minimum, you flip a tails, and this is still a guaranteed 30. This cube, where the other one is like High Roller's Dream, this one is still just 2 for 30, which is like perfect and is what you want one of these TMs to do. But the fact that it can also be another healing card for up to 30 damage, or even 60 if you happen to hit a weakness, incredible. This card is, well, the last one is awesome and it's like explosive and cool. This one is just like bread and butter good. I think this TM's amazing. Getting into Bugsy's cards, we run into the first of the art from our artist that we had talked about. Her flower work is beautiful. I think the sort of like soft colors and like soft outlines and things just make these very, very memorable. We start with Bugsy's Butterfree with 60 HP. It has that same Whirlwind move that Falkner's Pidgeot had, where if your opponent has any bench Pokemon, they choose one and switch it with the defending Pokemon, do the damage before switching. Just like I said before, that's a cool move for a little bit of pivot control, but because they get to pick, it's not the highlight. However, you get Psybeam for a grass and 2 colorless, notably, for you flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is now confused. So you get 20 damage and maybe confusion for 3 energy. 20 for 3 is under curve, but as anyone in this kind of era will know, confusion is like the strongest status condition. So the fact that you've got a status condition you can apply and still get 20 damage out of is pretty good. The damage isn't attached to the status infliction, so you get 20 either way. And it's nice that this is 2 colorless. It makes this Butterfree super splashable. If you're building a Bugsy deck, you don't really care because you're going to be mostly grass anyway. But if you were just trying to put Butterfree into other decks, I think he's actually a really potential target. Whirlwind, just like with Falkner's Pidgeot, has some application that can come in handy, and the confusion move that only takes 1 grass energy and then whatever colors the rest of your deck is makes Bugsy's Butterfree fit pretty well into most decks. Weak to fire is what it is. Grass types are typically going to be. There is as I said before, a fairly strong fire deck that exists, but there's also not a lot of representation for it yet so far, so maybe you're in the clear. Fighting resistance is just another slap in the face to fighting. Fighting is also simultaneously weak to grass, so you both do double damage to it and take like nothing from them, so it's just brutal. If you hit a fighting opponent, good luck to them. Bugsy's Beedrill continues with the amazing, just sort of soft line work. There's a really like lo-fi quality to these, and I just love them. Fury attack for a colorless, flip 2 coins. This does 10 damage times the number of heads. And then Twin Needle, also for a grass and 2 colorless, flip 2 coins, does 30 damage times the number of heads. So your first attack for 1, you can have 0, 10, or 20. Second attack, 0, 30, 60. If you hit 1 head on Twin Needle, you get the 3 for 30 curve we've been preaching about, which is cool. Obviously, if you miss, that sucks. If you get doubled, you 2 turns worth of damage. That sort of math is going to kind of carry through this format, so that's good. However, the fact that this does 60 and is only 2 coin flips is really nice. If you do hit that 60 damage, that is again a KO for most Pokemon. So you have like an OHKO move on this Beedrill, which is great, and then on top of that, the Fury attack lets you attack on the first turn you play it for 20 damage potentially on a good coin flip. There aren't a lot of Pokemon who can do 20 damage on turn 1, so if you land, if you're a if you're the gambling type and you hit that double heads early, you can be off to the races really well with this Beedrill. Same weakness and resistance that you had on the Butterfree, same retreat cost, that's kind of to be expected. A lot of these guys are going to be one retreat unless they are specifically slow, and then the weakness and resistance makes sense. It is, I think, nice to mention here, though, that Bugsy's Beedrill continues this trend of having like mostly colorless attacks, making it super splashable into other archetypes. You can bring in a Bugsy's Beedrill as a really nice way to shore up a weakness. You know, if your thing is weak to grass or something like that, you can bring in the Beedrill to counteract that. If they happen to be a fighting type, you know, if you're playing a deck that is weak to fighting, you could splash in this Bugsy's Beedrill to cover that weakness for you as well. I think overall the Butterfree and this Beedrill are both very playable cards. I think the Beedrill even more so than the Butterfree. However, I think Butterfree is perfectly good too, but I think Beedrill's got a lot of damage potential, and that's something you'll see from a lot of these Bugsy cards, is just that they hit way above their weight class sometimes. They don't always do it. Sometimes they hit for like next to nothing, but there are times where you just high roll and this deck just stomps. Bugsy's Pinsir gets into sort of being more of like a focused grass Pokemon. 60 HP, Vice Grip for a colorless though, for 10 guaranteed. And then for 2 grass, you get Double Stab. Flip 2 coins, does 20 damage times the number of heads. This is fine. It takes 2 grass. It is a double flip. The fact that it is 2 grass means it is way less splashable and means that you have to be much more focused on being a grass deck. There are really strong grass Pokemon though that exist in this format, so I think Pinsir unfortunately kind of misses the mark comparatively to some guys. Especially too, you'll notice that he doesn't have a resistance. So that's not like, it's not that resistance always comes into play, but it is just like another mark against him where he has a move that now takes 2 grass, does less damage than the last guy. You still have potential for 0, 20, or 40, which means you do still have a chance to hit like way above your cost curve, which is cool. But it does mean you're in a grass focused deck guaranteed now, or at least if not guaranteed, then very sort of balanced. I don't think he's bad. You know, like there were some guys when we were looking at Faulkner where I would say this card is like probably actually bad. I think Pinsir is fine. I just don't think that he is as good as many of the other grass Pokemon that exist. And with the fact that decks only play like 5 to 8 Pokemon in them total, you just don't really have the slot for Pinsir. So unfortunately, I think this guy doesn't really get the passing grade. Going into Bugsy's Ledian, you have Tackle for a colorless, a Comet Punch for grass colorless. You flip 4 coins, it does 10 damage times the number of heads. So, as you can see, continuing the Bugsy trend, we are just flipping coins for days here. This one is obviously less damage than the Beedrill. It does take less energy, and it is like less damage per coin, but you do get more coins. So you do still have a chance to hit 40 damage on this. You get the resistance 30 back that you lost on the Pinsir there. So like if you compared Ledian to Pinsir, the Vice Grip for 10, whatever, that's sort of similar to the Tackle. Comet Punch for 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 versus 0, 20, 40. I don't know. I mean, I think like in theory, like if you were to talk about the math behind it, I think Pinsir is probably better because it's less flips. You have to hit heads less times to get meaningful damage. The resistance difference as well as the energy difference do make these guys kind of interchangeable. I think both of them are kind of whatever. Unfortunately, for me, I love Ledian, so I played Ledian in my Bugsy deck, and I was happy with it. I don't think that it is like inherently that much better, really, than Pinsir, but I do think that I think there's maybe some argument to be had for if I'm flipping more coins, I have more chances to get heads, and like maybe that feels better. If I have, if I'm flipping one coin, I have a 50% chance of failure. In 4 coins, I have, much different odds than that. Obviously, my payout is a little less good, but maybe my consistency is up. I'm not the math whiz, unfortunately, to break down if 2 for 40 or 4 for 40 is better or safer. But the one grass, one colorless is enticing. It means that this fits into a little bit multicolored deck a little bit better. And we'll get to a little bit of why that matters as we go on. We have another one, Bugsy's Yanma here. The first Pokemon we've seen in the whole archetype, or in the whole format so far, that has 2 energy moves. 50 HP also, down from the 60 of the other Pokemon. For 2 colorless, Supersonic, flip a coin if heads. The defending Pokemon is now confused for no damage, though. That's not great. However, a double colorless confusion move does have some merit in that it could go into anything. Sonic Boom for grass and colorless does 20 damage. You don't apply weakness and resistance. That's okay. The just sort of guaranteed 20 is nice, and having some access to that is cool. There aren't a ton of cards with grass weakness. It's mostly some of the metal type guys. Grass resistance. But it's nice to have access to. If this guy wasn't a 50 HP, I think he'd be a little bit more playable. But as it stands, like even where I was talking about like Pinsir's like not great, I think this guy's even worse. The double colorless confusion flip is like, if you were to be thinking about a reason to play this card, it's that. You could now put confusion into your lightning deck, into your fire deck, which you just may not have had access to before, for the same energies you would normally use in your deck without having to even splash grass at all. So there's something to be said there that I think is cool. But overall, as much as I love Yanma, I think that he is, if Pinsir was like not cutting it, I think Yanma is even further down the list. And then we have Bugsy's Scizor, one of the coolest arts in all of the Versus set. I really enjoyed my time playing the Bugsy deck, and I thought about purchasing the cards to build a real Bugsy deck. Bugsy's Scizors are like $400, so it's not going to happen. In person, this Starburst is beautiful. He's looking up at the sky there, and it just looks incredible on the card. But you've got a 60 HP metal type here with Slash for a colorless for 10 damage, and then Steel Headbutt, which is a metal and a colorless. You flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 20 plus 10. If tails, it does 20. So you get a guaranteed 20, maybe 30 for 2. Okay, that's like right on curve or slightly above. He does take metal and is a metal type, so you don't lose the damage output that you get from the metal energies, and you don't get the damage, neg. But you also take 10 less damage for each metal that you have on him. If you get both of them on here and he's taking 20 less damage from attacks, he does get pretty tanky, which is cool. That is good, however, because he is a double colorless retreat. So he's a little bit stickier than some of the other bugs are, but luckily he tanks pretty well if you load him up right. He keeps the fire weakness that the other bug friends here have had, so unlike the Falconer archetype with the Falconer's Skarmory, that basically the fire weakness let you sort of switch your weakness out from your normal lightning weakness that you had on your other birds. Here you don't actually get out of the troublesome zone of fire, but you do keep that grass resistance, or you do gain the grass resistance, I guess, that you get from the metal type guys that I had mentioned before, which in a way is cool because it helps with the mirror. You can kind of pivot out of your grass guys into a Scizor and now try to start overcoming the mirror you're facing. You can still use the the Bugsy cubes on this guy. One of the things I think is nice is that he takes a metal and a colorless, so you could go metal grass, and then when it's time to use one of your TMs, throw the second grass on him and pop it from there. Afterward, if you survive, you can like retreat him with the 2 grass, move him back, put a different grass guy up front, and then, you know, work on getting the second energy back on him, or a second metal, whatever. So I found success with that myself. Overall, I think that Bugsy's Scizor is like a pretty good card. The metal energy, just like by nature of what metal energy does for a Pokemon, especially one who is metal type, does mean that this guy sticks around pretty handily. If you get a situation where you have him, and I had this happen myself, where you have Bugsy's Scizor and you've got metal on him, he's taking 20 less damage from attacks. So if they hit you for 30, you take 10. If they hit you for 30, you take 10. If they hit you for 30, you take 10. Cool. It's going to be a hard battle. And then from there, you play your Bugsy's Cube 2 to do the Mega Drain, just to do 30 damage to them and heal the 30 right back off of the Scizor. This guy can like really stick around. He was single-handedly carrying me through one of my games, or one of my matches even. I don't know, I think this guy's cool. I think the Bugsy cards overall are really interesting. They are definitely some good days, some bad days. The deck. Some days you're gonna flip a ton of tails. Some days you're gonna flip a ton of heads. So the highs and lows of this deck are very. The margin between them is high. If that's not for you, Bugsy might not be the deck you want to dig into. Even with the TMs, TM01 here, for example, is just like the coin flippiest card in the format. And even the gap between the fact that you're doing 30 or 100 is crazy. So sometimes this deck just connects every heads and you just like absolutely Godsmack guys. Other times you just hit tails and do 0 damage with Beedrill, or you hit Ledian with 4 tails and you're like, alright, well, I spent 2 energy to do 0 damage, pass. Like sometimes that just happens and you gotta be okay with that. Just know that maybe next time you play 2 energy and deal 40. Maybe you make up the difference. I think Bugsy has some of the highest like overall damage potential of all the decks, and I think that if you were really trying to like push for the chance at quick victories, Bugsy really has the potential to do that. But you've really got to be okay with the fact that sometimes you're just not gonna get there. Well, that's it for today. We have visited and defeated our Azalea Town gym leader here, picked up our second badge, and we move on. Next time we meet, we'll talk about Whitney and see if her Miltank is as much of an issue in this game as it is in the video game. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.